Hello my beautiful muffins, and welcome to What If Crossovers, the series where I take characters from other anime and or games and imagine what they would look like as servants in FGO. The quick rundown of how I will go about doing this goes as such. Here, I will place the newly created servant, followed by basic information such as name, servant class, command card type, and then go over the skills and noble phantasm. Also, this series will focus on the anime and not on manga or light novel adaptations to give more people a chance of understanding. With that being said, time to continue off from last episode with Akame Ga Kill, Part 2. Next up, we have Akame, the main heroine herself, who I've put, I think very appropriately, in the Assassin class with the standard deck of Buster Arts and Triple Quick cards. Reason being for Assassin class, I think is pretty self-explanatory for anyone who knows the series. She is the ultimate assassin. Going right off into the skills, we have skill 1, something that I think suits her is a 3-hit evade with an increase of NP gain by 20% for 3 turns. This is going to be her main survivability skill. Something, again, she was known for being very agile and quick and dodging. I mean, episode 1, she's dodging bullets right off the bat. So I think a 3-hit evade is very appropriate for her. And again, I put that as a cooldown of 6, so very powerful. This is essentially a protection from arrows. Skill number 2, I put a apply skill seal, decrease NP charge, and lower crit rate by 25% for 3 turns on a cooldown of 5. This is going to be her essentially large debuffing skill. Why I went this route, I think it's not so much that she's doing magic to debuff anyone. I think it's just the fear element that she puts in. She's an assassin. She's very infamous throughout the capital and, the whole mainland, essentially. So I just thought this was really appropriate for her, that kind of when she shows up, she just freaks people out. A lot of enemies are kind of terrified and, based on her abilities, it kind of messes up with people's hearts and minds. So going on to skill number 3, this is going to be one of her main powerhouses. I've given her apply sure hit for 3 turns, increasing crit damage for 3 turns, and that's going to be at 50%. And then I have increased debuff resistance. So kind of going reverse order, increasing debuff resistance is just due to the fact that she was kind of immune to a lot of situations in the show, both to her own kind of situation as well as kind of being resistant to poison in another episode. The increased crit damage and the sure hit I think is also pretty self-explanatory. She's very fast. Her sword skills are considered one of the best in the entire series, if not the best. And so she's going to be hitting really hard, and she's going to make sure that she's hitting the target. So sure hit I thought was very appropriate. But because she's just using a simple katana and not using some amazing, blast or anything, or like super powered, super strength hits, I just left it as sure hit and not ignore invincibility. And then lastly, we're moving on to the Noble Phantasm, and that's going to be based on the ability called Little Warhorn, where she slashed herself with her sword. That's known for killing anyone with a single cut, and she just gave herself a massive power up. I'm not going to do this as just a buffing Noble Phantasm, but I'm actually going to focus on the way she used it in the final fight against Esdeath, where she just kind of went crazy with speed and attack. So I made it a quick single target that buffs herself first. It increases instant death chance, which I think is a given, increases quick card effectiveness for 3 turns, deals significant damage, and then after it's going to spawn critical stars, and that's going to be the overcharge effect. Now the reason I went with this is because the way I kind of envisioned it working is the Noble Phantasm, like on screen, it would appear as a bunch of clones because they're after images of how fast she's moving, but it would only be an actual single hit. That way, and I did this on purpose because I don't want this Noble Phantasm to be spammed, but I want it to just be a very heavy, hard-hitting Noble Phantasm. So it would only have 1 hit, but it's going to do a ton of damage. It's going to still spawn a ton of stars. I didn't actually come up with numbers of how many crit stars, but I imagine somewhere in the 30 range, kind of, depending on overcharge effect. So probably like 20 at the first, and then kind of going to like 35 at overcharge 5. And then again, she has NP gain already that's pretty solid to begin with, so I don't worry about her being able to spam, but she won't be able to loop with the Noble Phantasm hitting alone. And that concludes part 2 of 3 for Akame Ga Kill. Be sure to comment what you thought about my choices here and what you would change if it were up to you. And be sure to join me next time when we do our last character for Akame Ga Kill, the main antagonist herself, Esdeath. Thank you, and have a nice day.